let's talk about government intervention and what we are marketed to, or how we are marketed to. So we get two things that caught my attention. First of all, I saw put out a note about Britain, who's been one of the world's leaders in terms of controlling high fat, high sugar advertisements to its
Yep.
people. And at the same time, you've talked about you're not a fan of the Who, I guess, because the kids aren't all right. Kids are all right. Favorite Who album.
Hmm.
That you're
That's
saying,
right.
listen, the marketing to kids piece. So
Thank you
these two things,
for noticing.
yeah. So these two things are connected. How are they connected in your mind? Britain, on the one hand, is taking a very forward perspective on not allowing any advertising on certain products, and the Canadian government is considering marketing to kid rules about what and how and where foods can be advertised. So where do those two things meet in your mind, between concerns about overreach, government overreach, versus making sure that the population stays healthy? Where do those things set in your mind?
Well, first of all, I think everyone would agree that it's important to protect our children. I mean, that's the most important thing, and there is science to the fact that kids can be influenced by marketing. They will be, and there's enough science. We know that. At the same time, I'm also concerned about overreach. And in the case of England, it is an island country. Most people in England will consume English content. Now, the regulation is kind of sketchy. It looks at daytime advertisement. What does that mean on TV on top of it? So I'm not sure exactly what that means, especially nowadays when most kids don't consume media or information from a television set. They
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
do that through social media
YouTube,
and
watch it on
and
YouTube
on
or
the
whatever. Yeah.
internet, and that's really tough to regulate. Many countries have actually have tried to regulate content on the internet, including Canada with Bill
Recently.
C-10, which is
Yep.
likely to die because of an election. And
Yep.
I'm honestly a bit concerned by overreach, having the state controlling everything. Quebec
Mm.
actually has done it since 1980. And what they've figured out is that Quebecers don't necessarily consume media from Quebec, or they won't
Sure.
necessarily listen only shows from Quebec. They listen to shows from the United States and from other places in Canada as well. And so advertising is everywhere. So it's hard to control. And that's why in my piece, I actually do value the concept of education. I think it's important to recognize that parents do have a role to play. They're the ones buying the products at the end of the day. And so it's important for them to understand the risks. At the same time, FHCP just released a voluntary code for themselves, advertisers, supported by key associations in Canada. I
Hmm.
thought it was actually a good move from them because they see that the writing is on the wall. Eventually, after an election, this concept of regulating advertising to children won't go away. A lot of people in Canada are concerned about that, so it's not going to go away. So they're
Hmm.
slowly preparing themselves. So my position on this is pretty simple. Just give this voluntary code a chance and see what happens by 2023, because it'll be fully implemented by 2023. Beyond that, if we see clear results, that's great. If we don't, then perhaps we should reconsider. What did you think about that?
Well, the M2K, as it's kind of known, has
Yeah.
been around for a while, and on the one hand, of course, we all care about our children. I love your tact about education, because I think education is more powerful than regulation.
Yep.
And sometimes unintended consequences we often talk about with the advocates. You wind up saying, well, you can't promote the Easter Bunny. Like if you took black letter law that said headline, Trudeau government kills the Easter Bunny. Sometimes sometimes the rules as written get a bit get a
That's
bit
right.
awry, and I think that's where the associations like Retail Council of Canada, like Michael Graydon's association, come in and say, okay, let's find some balance. Let's figure out amongst us all the right way to go. Again, I'm a
I think
fan of.
yeah, it was a good move from the association to actually be in front of this and not just wait for
Oh
things
yeah,
to happen.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I know Retail Council has been thinking about, as they do many files, right? Some
Oh
of these
yeah.
got, and some of them had the pause button hit on them in the pandemic, right? Other priorities were took place for both the governments and for the associations. Let's
It's
talk
funny
about.
if you
Go ahead.
remember last time we spoke, Michael. We talked about the sugar tax, which kind of fits in that same
Hmm.
registry, I guess. I'll have an op-ed at the end of the month in the Toronto Star about you know
Yeah.
I wrote a piece not supporting a sugar tax essentially,
Right.
and the editor called me and said, "Well, who do you think would write an op-ed against yours?" And
Hmm.
I basically said, talk to anyone in the medical sector,
Hmm.
dietitians, nutritionists. They fully believe that the state should regulate advertising, and I understand why, because, like I said, there is science, there is some neuroscience
Yeah.
which would support such a position.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what where there's some disagreement is how do you protect children in the end, really?
Right. Interesting. All right. Well, obviously, in the sugar tax for the listeners or the viewers who hadn't heard, we talked about that in Newfoundland, right? They were going to pass a sugar
That's
tax,
right. Yeah.
um, but we'll keep a close eye on that one.